extremely strange. And it is difficult to find the basis, for this decision. At least over the last 30 years or so, we've been running elections way back from 1992. And media presence has never been a problem. Has never. I mean, the EC cannot point to one incident which was caused by too many media personnel being at any collation center or polling station. So there's really no empirical basis for this decision. That's number one. Now, secondly, what capacity do EC officials have to determine which station is credible and which station is not credible? What is the criteria? And when they talk about credibility, what are they really talking about? What has gone on? How is credibility established? The number of stories that has been carried by a station which has been denied, is that what establishes credibility? The political orientation of stations, is that what establishes credibility, and so on? I mean, it's a minefield. You cannot provide a criteria for credibility. And this becomes a clearly arbitrary measure by EC officials at the constituency level and at the regional coalition centers. And it's a huge problem. I mean, there's no empirical basis for determining, credibility. And that could lead to a situation where favorite media houses are picked. And by favorite media houses, we may be talking about politically aligned media houses or media houses that have not been critical of the EC and therefore may be deemed to be planned, when it comes to observing and reporting on the elections and so on. That's part of the problem. Now, again, this measure which has been announced, to what extent is it transparent? I mean, if you leave it to constituency officials and regional officials of the EC to determine, how do you test how they did it? I mean, how transparent can that be? And so on. That's a huge problem. Then the EC's definition of media is hugely problematic. As far as the EC is concerned, media is just radio and television. So what about newspapers? And indeed, a lot of us, many people, including even the radio and television stations, usually get their raw material, from the Ghana News Agency and from daily newspapers like the Graphic and the Ghanaian Times. By this directive, the Ghanaian Times, Daily Graphic, and Ghana News Agency are excluded from getting accreditation to these centers. That's strange, hugely strange. There's no news network which is so broadly spread across the country, more than the Ghana News Agency. So how would you eliminate the Ghana News Agency? And then, of course, there's the online media. So by this directive, an online media like Ghana Web is excluded from covering the elections. I mean, strange. What is the basis of this? I mean, space has never been a problem. Why is space going to be a problem in this election? Is there something new that we don't know? In any case, from my own practical experience, no media house deploys personnel across the country to every polling station and so on. Usually, what media houses do is to mark out potential trouble spots and focus attention there. And whilst the elections are going on, we keep monitoring, and then we find out areas of interest to the public, and we move there, So this is a very strange directive. Now, what is the consequence of this directive going to be? Media houses which are not given accreditation and therefore may not be able to send personnel to coalition centers either at the constituency level or the regional level would then have to depend on second-hand information. And that can be hugely problematic. You understand? Because all the media houses cannot avoid reporting on elections. Now, if you prevent them from getting direct access to information, they're then going to depend on second-hand sources. And that's hugely problematic. Even though the Commission claims that this was done in their wisdom, it does suggest that there could be something substantially wrong with that wisdom. Because that wisdom really is not going to work to the benefit of the Commission, to the benefit of the Ghanaian public, and all the other institutions. So that wisdom really, I think, is quite deficient, in this matter. Now, what are we to do? I think we can revert back to what we have been doing all these years since 1992. And nobody has complained. The EC itself has never complained. The media houses have not complained. So let's go back to what we have been doing since 1992. That's possible. If the EC is so adamant,
for a minute, could it be that perhaps in reviewing election 2020, this was one of the things that the EC flagged at their collation centers, and they therefore thought that there was a need to streamline or sanitize the situation? Because like I told you, every time we keep having an increasing number, and here I'm not even referring to a lot of the online TV stations that have come up, that have become very popular, the blogging and all. That's not even what I'm referring to. But in terms of those who have even been issued with licenses, of quite a huge number, especially radio.
Yeah, if that is the case, they should tell us. And they should give us concrete evidence of the problems which media presence has caused. As far as I can remember, it has never been a problem.
And if it really was an issue, or it was a concern that the EC thought needed some strategy on, I would have thought. Well, I do not possess the wisdom that they have, so let me be humble about it. I'd have thought that perhaps engaging, say, the GJ, Print Pack, Giba, to say that, look, and here I'm playing the devil's advocate, say that, look, after reviewing 2020, this is what came up, and we think that we need to sanitize the situation. So how do we go about it? But, well, I think that, well, in their view, they possess enough wisdom that to go out and engage people.
That is only possible with an electoral commission which believes that stakeholders have a role to play in the decisions that they make. If you have an electoral commission which says that it is so independent that it is not answerable to even constitutional institutions, this is what you get. It is an attitude which has become very, very clear. You have an electoral commission which says that, in spite of the fact that it exercises its mandate, on behalf of the people of Ghana, nobody can question it. Nobody can tell it what to do and so on. That attitude is what has led to this. Okay. Now I'm saying that we could still find remedies, and one of the remedies is to go back to what we have always done, which has never caused any problem. Nobody has complained that the system of accreditation since 1992 has been bad. So we go back to that. On the other hand, if this independent or super independent electoral commission believes that it can do whatever it wants and get away with it and so on, one of the things it may want to consider will be balloting. Balloting. We only have enough space for 20. So all of you come and ballot, in which case the bias of electoral officials will be eliminated. You understand? But as it is, election officials, constituency level election officials, regional constituency officials on their own, without any empirical basis, are going to pick and choose which media houses should cover. And it goes to the heart of whether or not this election should be transparent and fair. Transparency comes through media exposure of what is happening. Without media exposure of what is happening, you cannot be talking about transparency. Okay. So this is a big blow, to transparency in the upcoming elections, and I'm very keenly worried. Randy, The Ghanaian media is so very polarized, usually along political lines. And because of that, I'm not expecting unified, strong action. But if the Ghanaian media was really organized, their organizations were organized along purely professional lines, one of the measures we could take would be, okay, take your elections. Total media blackout, and let's see what will happen. I mean, the chaos that this will generate.
So it's possible that Plote Kole will say that radio stations 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 those are considered credible. Then you go to Ladade Kotopon. Ladade Kotopon also has different radio stations that considers credible. Then Lejokuku also has different.
That's what is going to happen.
Then Tema East, if I want to go to Tema Central has a different list, Tema East.
That's what is going to happen. Unless all of these are going to send their recommendations to a central authority, which will then try, to bring some order.
No, the memo says that submit it to us so we can grant them accreditation.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So it means that ultimately...
So your suggestion is not even something that you can duly say that it has been approved. When you select them, you have to forward them to the national.
That's only for purposes of accreditation.
But it can
because the accreditation is not done at the district or regional level.
But it could have
done at the national level. So they say, you are there. You determine who's credible.
You suggest who you think is credible.
Yes, they say you determine. You determine who's credible. TV station 3, radio station 5 at the district, regional TV
Randy,
5.
It's a suggestion.
And then send them to us, and then we will give them, we will accredit them. That's what it is.
The accredited authority is not the district officer.
Yes.
And it's not the regional
national
officer.
Yes.
So if you submit your list, it is not automatic that it will be approved.
Well.
Okay. So what they then do is to make suggestions for the approval of the central authority. And
I mean, so much for wisdom.
And Randy, if you look at all the surveys which have been done and so on, the credibility of the EC keeps dipping. Okay? So if you have an institution whose credibility keeps dipping, how can it be making such a crucial decision on election coverage? Especially when this decision, from the very beginning, shows a certain level of ignorance on the part of those who made the decision. I mean, they certainly do not think that newspapers are part of the media. They don't think that online, media is part of the media, and so on. That's a huge statement about competence, a huge statement about judgment, and so on. The Media Foundation for West Africa has spoken, and I agree with them entirely. I'm told that the Ghana Journalists Association is having a meeting with the EC sometime today, and so on. But you see, whatever...
Oh, so the deadline was the 25th of November, so they've submitted a list already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you read the memo, it doesn't suggest that they would do anything at the national level. It says that the purpose is to enable us, provide them with accreditation, which will allow them entry into the constituency collation centers and the regional collation centers as follows. Please submit names of media houses for close of day today.